In 1958, a 17-year-old from a one-room shack in Brazil conquered the World Cup. 6 goals. Tears at the final whistle. But how a kid shining shoes for pennies became Pele, that's where the real miracle begins. Edson Arantes do Nascimento entered the world in Tres Caracoas, a town where dreams rarely traveled far. His family squeezed into a single room, every day measured by what little his father could earn and what Edson could bring home shining shoes at the train station. Coins from strangers kept food on the table, and once bought him a pair of battered boots. But a real football was a luxury beyond hope. So Edson learned to play with whatever he could find. A sock packed tight with newspaper, sometimes just a grapefruit rolling across the dust. Each touch on those makeshift balls sharpened his balance, his control, his hunger. On the cracked streets, surrounded by scarcity, he turned adaptation into instinct. There, greatness wasn't a destiny. It was survival, shaped one barefoot kick at a time. João Ramos do Nascimento, known as Dondinho, once chased the same dream his son would inherit. As a young man, Dondinho was a striker with a gift for scoring. 137 goals in 199 matches for Bauru, and 5-headed goals in a single game. Moments that whispered of greatness. But a torn knee at 23 ended his climb before it reached the top. He never wore the yellow of Brazil. Instead, he worked as a hospital cleaner, his boots traded for a mop, his ambitions left unfinished. For Edson, football wasn't just a way out. It was a promise left unkept, a story paused mid-sentence. Every lesson on a dusty field, every story told at night, carried the weight of what might have been. The pressure didn't come from crowds or headlines, but from the quiet hope in his father's eyes. In that home, the game was more than play. It was a legacy, waiting for someone to finish the run. Waldemar de Brito arrived in Bauru with the reputation of a man who knew talent when he saw it. He had played for Brazil at the World Cup, scored goals in stadiums most boys could only imagine. But what caught his eye was not the size of the crowd or the shine of a trophy. It was a skinny teenager weaving through defenders with a sock ball on a dusty pitch. De Brito watched Pele move, saw the way the game bent around him, and made a promise to anyone who would listen. This boy would be the greatest player in the world. He took Pele to Santos, a club hungry for renewal, and staked his own name on the teenager's future. The directors hesitated, wary of a 15-year-old from the interior, but De Brito's conviction broke through their doubt. In June 1956, Pele signed his first professional contract. By September of 1956, he was on the field in a senior match. Still just 15, and already rewriting expectations. His debut against Corinthians Santo Andre ended with 4 goals to his name. The newspapers called him a prodigy. Defenders called him a nightmare. Every touch, every run, carried the thrill of something new, proof that genius could come from anywhere, and that sometimes all it takes is one believer to open the door to history. At just 17, Pele's name landed on the Brazil squad list bound for Sweden, a leap that stunned even seasoned fans. A teenager, barely old enough to vote, now carried the hopes of a nation still haunted by heartbreaks past. The memory of Maracanazo, that painful defeat in 1950, lingered over every training session and press headline. Yet Brazil's selectors placed a rare trust in youth, betting that raw brilliance could heal old wounds. For Pele, this was no longer about club glory or local acclaim. Under the glare of the world's brightest lights, he was thrust into the cauldron of the World Cup, where every move would be measured against the weight of history and the hunger of millions. 17 years old, standing on the edge of football's greatest stage, Pele did what no one had ever done before. In Sweden, 1958, he stormed through defenders twice his age and size, scoring 6 times in the tournament. The world first took notice when he broke through in the quarterfinal, but it was the semifinal against France that set the legend in stone. A hat trick, 3 goals in one match, each more breathtaking than the last. Suddenly, a teenager from Brazil was carrying his country to the final. On June 29th, in the Rosunda Stadium, the pressure reached its peak. Brazil faced the hosts, Sweden, in front of a roaring crowd. Pele, barely old enough to drive, scored twice, first with a flick over a defender's head and a volley that seemed to stop time, then again to seal the win. The scoreboard read 5-2. The whistle blew, and the boy who once played with grapefruits and socks collapsed in the grass, tears streaming down his face. He had become the youngest player ever to win the World Cup, holding the trophy as if it weighed the world. In that moment, the story was no longer about poverty or promise, but about a teenager who conquered the world with a ball at his feet. Today, a kid with nothing but a dream can still change the world. Talent knows no borders, only belief. Somewhere, the next legend laces up. Greatness begins wherever hope refuses to quit.